It's not going to start. Can you? Yeah. There, that's good. Perfect. Thank you everyone for being here tonight and joining us for our annual meeting. It is our one and only official meeting of the year where we will have an election of officers, which is nice to see everyone here. Thank goodness we have a quorum. So we do have 33 members in attendance along with a number of guests. So I'm so glad everyone's here. So what we're going to do, please, if you are able to stand, we're going to have our pledge. I'm sorry, our prayer. Larry?
Let us bow our heads. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for today, a day we've never experienced before in our life. Father, we thank you for our Republicans and our Republican club. We thank you for Putnam County. We thank you for our state of Florida and our country. Father, tonight we ask that our speakers have words of direction for us, Father, directly from your throne room. We thank you for everyone that's here. We pray for those that can't be here. There's some sick among us. And Father, we pray for those. And Father, we just thank you for everything Republicans do to move this county, this state, and our country forward. And Lord, we just ask that you bless us tonight, be with us as we drive home, be with our speakers as they travel back to where they came from. And Father, we thank you in the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. And if we'll have the pledge led by Bobby Jackson. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so very much. You can be seated. This evening we want to welcome a couple of our dignitaries. We have John Browning, Florida Transportation Commissioner. John, where are you? In the middle. Leota Wilkinson, our Chair of the County Commission. Larry Harvey, Vice Chair of the County Commission. We have Josh Alexander, County Commission. J.R. Newbold, County Commission. Phil Leary, Putnam County School Board Chair. And Bobby Payne, the newly appointed Public Service Commissioner. Did I miss any elected officials, please? I didn't see Walton come in. Walton, I'm sorry, Pellisier, County Commission. Also tonight, if we have any visitors, thank you for being here with us this evening. If you'd raise your hand if you're a visitor here this evening, we welcome you all. Thank you. We do have a few new members tonight. So we have the Griffins. If you all will raise your hand, where are the Griffins? And we have the Sanders. So if you will, Mike, there you go, Sanders. We appreciate that. Now, I'm going to ask Buddy to come join me up here at the podium.
Yes. Oh, yes. Well, I'd like. Is that in our thing? No. Okay, we want to. If you don't mind, if all veterans would stand. Yes, thank you. It was just happened to be the birthday yesterday, was it the day before yesterday, of the Marines, 250 years. That's true. I got busy. Okay, the veterans, if you don't mind, would you stand again so that we can see you? There's a reason for this. We have freedom t-shirts that we want to give to each one of you. Okay, so get with us after the meeting and we'll get your sizes and you get a nice t-shirt.
Yeah, thank you. That's in honor of your service, and it's a little token, but we did have an anonymous donor who donated it and made it possible for you all to have a t-shirt tonight. So thank you to that donor.
Yes.
A couple of quick announcements. Anne is selling swag. If she hasn't tackled you on your way by, she'll tackle you on your way out. So she has swag for you. We have petitions up front on the countertop coming in. I started to say the bar, but on the countertop. So if you haven't signed a petition yet, we have them up there for Phil Leary, Larry Harvey, and Leota Wilkinson. So please sign a petition for them. And then the last thing is just to remember that our Christmas celebration, we will not be here next month on a Thursday. We were going to be at the Ag Center at the fairgrounds, or behind the fairgrounds, on that Friday the 12th. We can't say it enough because somebody inevitably will come here instead. So we're just trying to announce it as many times as we can. So with that said, I'm going to... And right, so it's the Festival of Lights that evening, and we're going to go to the Festival of Lights as our Christmas party. So with that said, I am going to turn the podium over to Buddy, and we'll start the program. Thank you.
If you read your agenda, it says over here, myself and Mr. Payne. So I'm going to introduce our number one, Gator DeLoach, our sheriff, who has done a phenomenal job. I don't know if you hear that enough, but you are doing a phenomenal job for our county. And then I'm gonna go ahead and introduce Gator, let Gator do his, and then I'm gonna let Bobby come up here, or Mr. Payne. Yeah. Gator, come on up. There you go. Did you need a...
So before I begin, I actually want to take just a moment. Some of you may have heard a little ruckus around town today, and might just, inquiring minds might just want to know what that was all about. You may have heard we actually had an escaped prisoner today. I'm pleased to report that within about 45 minutes to an hour, he was safely back in our custody, but not after being bitten by one of the most beautiful German Shepherds you've ever seen in your life. So this fine, upstanding citizen decided it would be a good idea I'm not going to say he was feigning an injury, because he was legitimately injured. He had an acute fracture on his right foot that he sustained during the 5 days this month that he was actually out of our custody before he returned after kidnapping his domestic partner and brutally beating her. So today, he was complaining about the handcuffs were too tight. So one of our corrections deputies was trying to show him some compassion, and he managed to slip out of the handcuffs when he was adjusting them. That led to a epic foot pursuit that lasted about 1,000 yards before he eventually eluded our capture and wound up in the woods. So we solicited some additional resources and set up one heck of a perimeter, called in our aviation assets and canine teams, and some help from Marion as well as Clay County to bolster our efforts. And within a very short amount of time, we had him back in our custody and back at the emergency room seeking treatment for his dog bite, where he was quickly released and booked right back into the jail. So all's well that ends well. It is truly an honor to be here with you today. Tonight, Is that better? Yeah. This thing makes an awful racket when you move it. I was trying to avoid that if I could help it. So I want to talk to you about an issue tonight that's not necessarily comfortable or something that's not light. It's not something that we necessarily want to bring up at breakfast or even at the dinner table. But it's something that's very important to me. I think all of you know me pretty well, and you know what a special place I have in my heart for children. This is an issue that cuts right to the heart of our community safety, parental trust, and the well-being of our children here in Putnam County. And what I'm talking about is sexual offenders and predators. Specifically, the new ordinance that we just passed with the help of all of your commissioners. So please give them a round of applause. Without their assistance, this would have never been possible, and it was certainly a collaborative effort between all 5 of the commissioners, county staff to include the county attorney, myself, and our very own Alex Sharp, who was instrumental in drafting the ordinance. So this is essentially to protect our neighborhoods from becoming a predator or offender's next hunting ground. As many of you are aware, Putnam County has, for many years, carried a disproportionate share of offenders and predators. So for a rural county of just over 70,000 residents, we know that the number of predators living here is alarmingly high, and that isn't by accident. But over time, Putnam County developed a reputation, and certainly not one that we wanted, but one that offenders were quick to exploit. You may recall, upon the passing of this ordinance, I told the Daily News that, frankly, Putnam County had become a dumping ground for offenders and predators, and we're no longer willing to tolerate it. So why is this happening? And it's simply because offenders and predators go where they can hide in plain sight, walk amongst our children unnoticed, and target rural, less populated areas. We identified a problem. We knew that we had too many cracks in the system, and predators were simply slipping through them. I want to be clear, though. I'm not talking about petty offenders. I'm talking about people who target children, violate their trust, and leave permanent scars. These individuals don't stop because we ask nicely. They don't stop because they've done time. I spent my entire career watching these cases, and I can tell you without hesitation, with sexual predators, it's not a matter of if they will reoffend, it's a matter of when. We know them to be master manipulators. They build trust, they groom, and they wait, sometimes very patiently, for an opportunity. And when communities lower their guard, they'll strike again. No case drives this point home more powerfully than the D'Amico Henderson case. D'Amico Henderson is a 34-year-old registered sex offender from Willaca. He's not some nameless figure in a distant city. He lived right here in our county. On April 30th of this year, my detectives received a tip that ultimately uncovered a horrifying pattern of sexual abuse involving 2 young girls, one of them just 10 years old and autistic. Over the course of 3 years, Henderson gained the trust of their families and repeatedly sexually assaulted these poor children. The sad part is, this isn't his first offense. Henderson was previously convicted in Duval County in 2010 for sex crimes against children. He's been arrested multiple times since then for failing to register, and is, in my opinion, in every sense of the word, a predator. In June, our state attorney, R.J. Larrizza, announced the state would seek the death penalty against Henderson under Florida's 2023 child sexual battery law, the first such case in our judicial circuit. This law makes sexual battery against a child under 12 a capital felony, allowing the death penalty in the most egregious of cases. This case is so significant that it may eventually test the U.S. Supreme Court precedent. But for us, it's more than a legal landmark. It's a gut punch and a reminder of why we can never afford to be complacent. So in response to this problem, we worked very closely, as I alluded to a few minutes ago, with our county commission to draft what is, in my opinion, one of the strongest ordinances against offenders in the state of Florida. This ordinance was actually modeled after the Lauren Book Ordinance, who is a survivor turned advocate that fights diligently for children's safety statewide. So I want to take a few minutes and walk you through what this ordinance actually does, because it isn't just a symbolic gesture. It's not just a piece of paper. It actually has real teeth. It expands residency restrictions. Registered sex offenders and predators are now prohibited from living within 2,500 feet of a school bus stop, daycare center, playgrounds, parks, athletic fields, libraries, or any other location where children regularly congregate. That's nearly a half a mile of a protective buffer, which is a significant increase from the 1,000-foot previous standard that predators easily worked around. This ordinance also creates child safety zones around these areas, which means simply that offenders are not permitted to loiter, linger, or engage in any activity in these zones, even if they live there. This is a valuable tool that gives my deputies a legal authority to stop and remove offenders from vulnerable areas before a crime actually occurs. You probably all remember all too well the trailer park over off of South Palm Avenue that we were fortunately able to break up with the help of county codes enforcement. This ordinance prohibits address clustering that we saw in that particular case. It also prohibits multiple offenders from living at the same address or trailer parks to become concentrated danger zones. We've effectively shut that down. It also imposes holiday restrictions. Offenders are now restricted from participating in activities or being present in areas where children are trick-or-treating, parades, or other holiday events. This means no passing out candy, no watching outside, no watching children, no positioning themselves near bus stops on the first day of school, and is, in my opinion, all about eliminating opportunity. There's also enhanced registration and compliance checks. Offenders must update their address promptly, and my agency conducts unannounced compliance checks. We already do hundreds of these every year, and we plan on doing hundreds, if not thousands, more. With this ordinance, fortunately, violations now carry sharper teeth and more immediate consequences. Something unique about this ordinance is it confers countywide protection. So the ordinance has actually been adopted in Palatka, Crescent City, and Wielaka, and tonight is being heard for one of its first readings at the Interlochen Town Council. So after Interlochen is scheduled to vote on it tonight, why does this matter? It matters because we know that predators often exploit jurisdictional gaps. So once Interlochen adopts it, there will be no easy zones left in our county. We know that predators are strategic, and when a county has weak rules, they move in. When a county has strong rules like ours does now, they move out. And I want to be clear, this ordinance isn't about moving a problem around the corner. To me, it's about making Putnam County a much harder target. It gives law enforcement legal tools to intervene early, restrict where offenders can live and operate, and protect children from being groomed and targeted. This is not about vengeance for me. It's about protection. And I know there are some people who may say, well, Sheriff, sometimes people deserve a second chance. My response to that is simple. No one deserves a second chance when it comes at the expense of a child. We have decades of evidence and firsthand experience these individuals, especially serial predators, do not stop. Many of them have spent years in prison, received treatment, signed every document, and promised they'd change, but they don't. They reoffend, they destroy lives, and we're done letting Putnam County be their playground. Ordinances alone will not protect us. This is where groups like you come in. Your business and community leaders, your parents, grandparents, and influencers in our respective communities. You're often the eyes and ears on the ground before law enforcement ever receives any notification that a crime has occurred. The D'Amico Henderson case is one that's certainly going to be remembered in this county for a long time. It's not just a criminal case, it's a line in the sand. It's a reminder that if we let our guard down, predators will fill in the gaps. But it's also a rallying point, because this time, our county isn't looking the other way. We're standing firm, and the ordinance that we passed is part of that stand. Putnam County is a proud community. We look out for each other, and we're not going to let predators define who we are. With this ordinance and vigilant law enforcement and an engaged community, we're sending one unmistakable message. Putnam County is no longer a dumping ground for everyone else's predators or offenders. Not now, and not ever again. We'll continue to protect our children, and I will continue as your sheriff to do everything in my power to make this county a place where families feel safe. Thank you so much for your time, your attention, your trust, and your partnership. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Before you step away, can we ask a couple of questions?
Certainly.
I'd like to know about our officers participating in the 287G authority.
Yes, we absolutely are. So the question was, Rhonda wanted to know if our deputies are participating in the 287G program, which is an enforcement model that was brought to you by the state legislature this year. The answer is a resounding yes. You could imagine, and particularly with the shutdown, the wheels of government, especially at the federal level, grind slow sometimes. And that's been a little bit of a source of frustration for us. But the folks at ICE have actually been very accommodating and are working very closely with us to get everyone trained. There's actually a online training platform that everyone has to go through before they are 287G certified, and we are deep in the middle of that process. We have about half of our staff through and hope to get the rest through in the next couple of months.
Thank you.
Could you give us a synopsis on that? I'm not familiar with that.
So what that does is it actually gives local law enforcement officers authority to do immigration investigations and enforce those federal immigration statutes on behalf of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Bobby, you had a question?
Yes, sir. This is all good, but what are we gonna do about not letting them out? Because in my county 50 years ago, if that so-and-so hadn't been turned loose to do it again, he wouldn't have hurt my dog.
Undoubtedly. I don't think our good governor is going to let that happen. Yes, you can actually go to the Sheriff's Office website, and there's a link there that will direct you to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. They actually maintain a map. It's a real-time map. The predators are required to come in and update their addresses at least monthly, and then we go out and periodically spot check them throughout the month. But simply go to our website, and there's a link there on the links tab that will direct you to that site, and you can do a real-time search of every predator and offender in your neighborhood. There actually is a mechanism that allows us to do that, and we are contemplating passing some type of policy that will allow us to do that. Yvette?
I know that you can track the ones that are registered, but how about the ones that are adjudicated guilty and not required to register?
Say that one more time.
We have predators that are charged, adjudicated guilty, and not required to register. So you have no way of tracking them. You have there's no mechanism for you to track it, right? Unless you get that from the courts.
No, unless the court actually orders that they register as a sexual predator or offender, there is no means in place that allows us by law to track them.
Okay, because even though they are not required, they're still guilty, but they didn't go to trial.
Sure.
For it. So
And
they're
I think
getting
what you're referring to, if I'm reading in between the lines, is perhaps a bad precedent that was set by some weak state attorneys in some not so conservative friendly jurisdictions who allowed them to plead down to a lesser included crime that didn't require that they register.
I haven't checked our court system.
Candidly, I don't know that there's any means for us to be able to check and verify that, but none that I'm aware of, or at least in the 25 years I've been at the sheriff's office. Yes, ma'am. Yes. I will tell you. Oh, no doubt. If we were looking for an argument, Christy, we'd have to pick another subject. Sure, I agree. I don't have an answer for you, candidly. I can tell you, just for a baseline or frame of reference, on November 20th, I'm actually going to witness an execution from a homicide that occurred here in Putnam County in 1988. Leota.
If you, real quick, give the percentage of the amount of people that are registered that offended out of town or actually come out of town.
I would love to. I wish I had those numbers in front of me, and I just don't know them off the top of my head. But it is a substantially higher number of offenders and predators that relocate to rural counties from other areas. Most of these that we're looking out for now are not, did not commit a crime here in Putnam County. Les?
I recommend we let Christy catch the next extinct inmate.
Tim, you had a question?
For the loitering in, as I understand it, years back, loitering within the area of the school, what do your deputies have to prove, and what is the misdemeanor, what's the penalty?
It is a misdemeanor, so that was one of the stipulations that were put into the ordinance that the county commission was so gracious to approve. This is not just a civil penalty. It's not like getting a traffic ticket. It's actually enforceable by arrest.
What do they have to prove?
What's that?
What do they have to, what's the elements of the crime?
Well, it depends on the totality of the circumstances, but once they meet the requirements as set forth in the ordinance, they can make a physical arrest. All right. Thank you all very much. It was wonderful being here tonight.
I'm not going to lower this down because Mr. Payne's going to use this. But we honestly have a phenomenal sheriff's office. What they've been getting done with the biggest hit that I saw was the drugs. They were just eliminating drug houses left and right. And this is, I hope it's as important to y'all as it is to me that no child should be abused. No child whatsoever. And what they have done is great, and what they've done for our county is a great thing. So let's do that one more time. And I'd like to introduce Mr. Bobby Payne.
I'm going to go ahead and pull this down for you a little bit, Paul. We've done that once before on the floor, haven't we? Listen, it's great to see all of you tonight. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm sorry I don't get here as much as I would like to, but I have the honor tonight to introduce a friend of mine that I first met 10 years ago as I began my campaign in the State House. We met for lunch over at Crescent Beach. And it wasn't long after that that he supported me and that I got to be a part of a movement in Tallahassee that was great. And I'll just mention Sheriff Gator, that bill that you talked about putting people to death that are sexual predators was passed under Speaker Renner. So let me just read you a little bit of his bio, and he's going to take some questions. I just want to make sure that all of you have an opportunity to meet someone that I've met that's a principled person that I would ever meet in my life. And if you get a chance to know him, you'll understand where he's coming from. Paul Renner joins us today from Palm Coast, where he lives with his wife, Adriana, and their 2 children. As a son of a pastor and a public school teacher, Paul committed his life to serving his community at an early age. After joining the U.S. Navy, Renner served in Operations Desert Storm during combat operations on board the USS McHenry, and later in 2011 deployed to Afghanistan during Operations Enduring Freedom. Paul received his Juris Doctorate from the University of Florida in 1994 and began his legal career in South Florida as an assistant state attorney prosecuting serious felony offenses, as you just spoke of, Gator. First elected in Florida House in 2015, Speaker Renner served as a speaker from 2022 to 2024. Under his leadership, the legislature tackled universal school choice, protecting children and the unborn, defeating DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, in ESG, environmental and social governance, expanding parental rights and protection for Florida's beautiful natural resources, just to mention a few. Though some said it couldn't be done, Speaker Renner led the legislature to end litigation abuse and create competition in the insurance marketplace, which we are now starting to see additional benefits, and Speaker Renner will talk about that in just a minute, lowering insurance costs for Floridians. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce Paul Renner, who is running for the governor of Florida, and with his commitment, will always keep Florida first.
That's about right, Bobby. Well, you guys have got a great one. I know we both termed out last election, last November, but Bobby Payne was one of the leaders during the whole time I was in the legislature, and a lot of the good things that have come to Putnam County from Tallahassee, well, all of the good things that came from Tallahassee came because of Bobby Payne, and you guys were really blessed to have him for those 8 years, right? And Sheriff, I'm ready. If you'll still take me in 58, I'm ready to lace up and go. If you'll take me as one of your deputies, because that was inspiring. You guys have an amazing sheriff here who's going after bad guys. I do not understand. I guess we haven't gotten Soros sheriffs yet. We've got some Soros prosecutors, and thank God you guys have got RJ Larizza and you've got Gator here, who's doing a fantastic job protecting this community. And thank you, Sheriff, very much. I'm just going to speak for a few minutes because I like to take your questions, because that's a lot more fun to talk about what you want to talk about than what I may want to talk about. But I want you to have an idea of 2 things, basically, is why I'm running and why I believe that I should earn your support. And the why I'm running is really that, as Bobby talked about a little bit, we were part of an effort over 6 years with Governor DeSantis to build what we call the free state of Florida. And I don't want to go backwards. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but we went through COVID. We did a lot of things to really push back against a very aggressive, left-wing movement that happened really kind of after the George Floyd thing. It just kind of went on steroids, and people were just being, demanding that you adopt all these crazy things that destroy our norms, our constitutional norms, whether it's the First Amendment or a family norms of what is a woman, and all these transgender surgeries and things that we were dealing with. And we fought back against that to really just do what really did make America great, is stand strong for our foundational principles, our faith, our family, our communities. It's not hard, and to stand up for the truth with a capital T. And so I'm also the father of 2 young children, and so you think about the future a lot. Though the truth of the matter is, for anybody that had young children, the only time you think about the future is when they're sleeping and you've got that 1 hour when you're still awake with your wife and you can chat a little bit. But and then after a lot of prayer, because I'll be honest, I was pretty happy. Bobby and I talked about how fun it was to be out of the legislature and out of politics a little bit. But, one by one, a lot of the people that I had a lot of respect for that I thought would make great governors started leaving the room. And when you're the last guy in the room, and they were going for good reason to the Senate or, some university or what have you, you start thinking about the future. And again, not wanting to see everything you worked so hard for be rolled back, or just not moving forward in the same way that we've had over the last 7 years. And so after a lot of prayer, I got in the race. And a little bit about me, I grew up as a pastor's kid. So my dad was a minister. My mom was a public school teacher. There's probably some divine providence there that God knew that I needed a lot more attention and a lot more instruction. So he put me with a pastor and a teacher. But that was good. And everything I have in life that is good is really the result of my mom and dad. And they were great growing up. But they also taught me service. And it was all about service above self, growing up in a preacher's home and in a teacher's home. And that led me to the Navy. So at the age of 23, I was on the deck of the USS McInerney, navigating through mine-infested waters. If you remember, Saddam Hussein had these minefields to kind of keep us all out, and these burning oil fields. And if you just took your undershirt and let it breathe through it, it was like a filter of a cigarette. It was pretty bad over there. And but we had to, at a young age, had to navigate through these minefields or floating mines actually, and also as a small boat officer go and destroy those with an EOD team. There was a small boat and 4 or 5 of us going out there with the 2 guys that got on the mine and put the little explosives on it, and our ship was kind of standing off in the distance in case something happened. And every one of those we destroyed was one that couldn't get an American, and we'd had some loss of life and injury as a result of that. And did some other things, came back, went to law school, University of Florida, became a prosecutor in Broward County. And for those that don't know Broward County, be glad you don't know Broward County, because unlike Putnam County with your sheriff and your state attorney, you're fighting the defendant, you're fighting the defense attorney, but you're also fighting the judges and some of the juries. And so it was one of those deals where you were always on your toes. But we stood up and prosecuted a lot of habitual and violent habitual offenders, people like the sheriff mentioned that frankly do not belong on the streets. They belong behind bars because they do not have the capacity to live with us and not hurt other people. And so we defended victims. 20 years later, after Operation Desert Storm, and I was in the reserves at that point as an intelligence officer, and went to Afghanistan and led a unit there to disrupt foreign fighters coming into the Afghanistan battle space. So think about Iran, Pakistan, Al-Qaeda, anybody that was not Afghan native coming in those networks to try to disrupt those. And what I learned from 20 years about veteran values, in addition to just a deep love of country, is placing service above ourselves. And veterans never quit until the mission is complete. They're mission focused. And I think looking at, and then, in between that period of time, I was a lawyer and did represent a lot of businesses, started a business, and also a partner in a business. But going into politics, it wasn't really any of that, but those veteran values, I think, helped us be successful by focusing on the mission. And we had people like Bobby who were older and wiser and had been around and had accomplished things in life. We didn't have to be there. We weren't no offense to the 20-year-olds in the room, but I mean, it wasn't like the biggest deal in our life. It was an honor, but we were there really just to get a job done. And by staying mission focused, which is what I learned in the military, is you get rid of the ego, you get rid of the pettiness, and frankly, there's too much politics in politics. And you see the back and forth among Republicans where we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot, and when we're not fighting the other side, we got to fight ourselves. And so that we always have to be careful about that and avoid complacency. But because we focused on collaboration together as Republicans and not competition or name calling, we had an incredible run. And Bobby mentioned a few things, but I'll just start with, how about we start with a balanced budget? We don't spend any more than we take in, like every other family in business. Thank you. And we cut with that balanced budget, we still cut a record amount of taxes. We took our debt that was very small. We have a small state debt. We actually, it's scheduled for a certain period of time, and then it goes off like a mortgage. We actually advanced that and paid some of that debt off ahead of time, ahead of schedule. So let's just say no one will ever confuse us for the federal government and what those guys are doing up there, because they're pretty dysfunctional. And on it, right? And so on education, you mentioned universal school choice, but I'm a public school kid. My mom was a public school teacher, and we did significant increases in teacher salaries for public school teachers. Probably need to do more. I think we should. But we want to make sure that every kid, whether they're in a traditional public school, a charter school, a private school, or a homeschool, has the best education possible. And what that voucher, what that scholarship does, one is it's about $8,000. So it's about half of what traditional public school kid is, about $15,000 depending on the county. It introduces competition, but also importantly, and it's probably not an issue in Putnam, but a lot of these cities, you're a conservative parent, you're a Christian parent, and you send your kid off to school and they come back, and it was really sad. And this is at the university level. A buddy of mine and his wife, and they're strong Christian couple, and he said, we've got 6 kids, we send them away and they come back from college and they're atheists, left-wing progressives, and they've just lost their minds. But even that's happening, or we saw what was happening at the K-12 level during COVID. And so we want to make sure that you as a parent or a grandparent have the right to send your kid to a school that's going to respect your values. And having that option makes everybody do better and be more respectful of everyone. And so we know that higher education is the issue that's most in need of reform. If you look at where all those problems are that I mentioned from those 6 kids, is ending DEI programs and making sure that they're not taking these hiring statements before somebody can get a job at a university. There's still more work to do there, but we stood for life in the Heartbeat Protection Act. We ended transgender surgeries on minors. We said we're not going to let you put boys in girls' bathrooms. All of this crazy stuff is not going to happen in Florida. We made Florida the best state for law enforcement and the worst state if you're an illegal immigrant or you want to cheat in an election. So we made sure to have tight rules on both of those. And then, just in so many ways, we talked a little bit about, Bobby did, I think, about insurance. We came in 2022 after the election. That was our last 2 years. And we had an insurance crisis, and nobody had really done anything about it. And we had double-digit increases. Companies were going out of business, leaving, dropping people. Everybody was going to Citizens. And we took on a lot of special interests that people said could not be overcome, and we did it. And the result of that is just getting rid of some of the Wild West litigation abuse, is that auto insurance rates are going down in the state of Florida. They're not going up in all 49 states, but they're going down here. State Farm, I think, is down 6 or 8%, and they just announced another 10% decrease come January 1. So if your auto insurance has not gone down, you need to get on the phone and shop it out a little bit. And then I believe we're already seeing some decrease in homeowners. I don't think people have felt that yet, but I think over the next 12 months, you're going to see a pretty significant reduction in homeowners insurance, which again, all across the country is going up. And affordability is the number one issue, and we tackled it. Well, we did what they said couldn't be fixed. We fixed it. So when anybody tells you something can't be done, there's a way to get it done. You just need the right people in office, Bobby and the others that we had in the House and Senate to get it done. And then the other thing I would mention is what we did for children. I mentioned how we protected them from these surgeries and some of the things, indoctrination and whatnot. Bobby mentioned the fact that we said, the old Supreme Court, the liberal U.S. Supreme Court had said they struck down the death penalty for raping a child. We said, we believe that's wrong. There's a new Supreme Court. And so we know that right now that is unconstitutional at the Supreme Court precedent level. But we're sending that back up, and it may be this D'Amico Henderson case that does it. And we believe that's the right thing to do. We also gave greater flexibility on the death penalty. There was a bad decision that made it a unanimous jury verdict. Now, you got to be unanimous to convict. But on the death penalty, what happens is people they're not fully honest about their position on the death penalty sometime. And Ted Bundy, if you remember that Ted Bundy story from FSU, that guy didn't have a unanimous death. So there's 2 phases, the guilt phase and then there's the death phase. He didn't have a unanimous jury. The Parkland shooter didn't have the requisite number of votes and got life in prison, I believe, right? Didn't get the death penalty. The guy that killed 17 kids. And so we also gave greater flexibility for a supermajority vote there, and made sure that we were taking good care of our law enforcement, whether it's on pay and pension, making sure they're protected when they make an arrest. These protesters to get up in their face with a cell phone right up on top of them. It's not safe for officer safety, that they have a halo buffer around them, and that we were getting rid of some of the issues we have, not here, but in some big cities with these citizen review boards, where they harass police basically and try to really go after them. They're left-wing activists. But in protecting children, we also went after social media platforms and online pornography in the second year. And, you know, the internet's a great thing, and we all want adults to have freedom on the internet. But you have like young 8-year-old kids that are getting on and seeing stuff that's like way, way beyond, you know, a magazine and a convenience store. It's really bad stuff. And so we protected them. We won a case in the Supreme Court where those entities were suing to stop us from that law being upheld. They lost at the Supreme Court. That law is the law of the land now. And with respect to social media platforms, what the sheriff knows, and I learned even during the process of this, was we were seeing horrible psychological harm to people from an unregulated experiment on social media. They just can't overcome these algorithms that are addicting them to be on for 6 or 8 hours a day. And you had 57% of high school women in this nationwide survey that said they had persistent hopelessness or loneliness. That's 57%. 41% said they had a mental health issue in the last 30 days, and 30% contemplated taking their own life in the last year. 30% of high school American women. And so this is because of all the comparisons, all the things that happen on social media on the psychological side. But it's also, and I think the sheriff would agree, the main place where sexual predators lurk to find your child or your grandchild. And so ironically, it's safer for your kid to be in a county park or city park at midnight by themselves to be on their cell phone while you're sleeping, because somebody pretending to be a 12-year-old girl is really a 52-year-old man. And so I can just tell you this, when I'm governor, if you come after a kid, the only Florida you'll ever see is the inside of a prison cell before we execute you. And on that point, we're going to expedite death penalty cases because I think it was a case down in Central Florida. You mentioned one in 1988. That may be the same guy. Is he the guy that killed the 6-year-old?
This was actually a local.
Okay, there's one in Orlando I just heard on the news. A guy raped and killed a 6-year-old. There was no death penalty back then, but he was death penalty for the murder, not the rape. And he's in his late 60s, early 70s, 40 years later. That's outrageous. And so we want, them to have whatever due process they need, but whether it's 2 or 3 years, they don't need to be on death row for 30 or 40 years. That's not deterrence. So I will start wrapping up with that and just say that, because I like to take your questions, is that the defining issues in this race and the why is really this job is a huge leadership job. You see what Ron DeSantis had to go through during COVID, and he fortunately made the right call, or a lot of our businesses wouldn't be here, a lot of us wouldn't possibly be here, to make sure we kept Florida free and open. You got to have somebody with leadership experience, and I described what mine is. I would ask all the candidates that come through, have they ever run a lemonade stand? Have they ever done anything in leadership that prepares them for whatever comes? But if you're also interviewing for a leadership job, you want to know, in your leadership role, have you had success? Have you delivered results? And have those results been positive? I've shared with you a fraction of what we did with Bobby and others, but we had an enormous, and people that we know that were in the process for 30 or 40 years have said, we had an extremely productive 2 years during that time while I was speaker and Bobby was on our leadership team, because we put all the egos to the side, and that's what I'll do as governor, is focus on what Floridians need. And we better get it done, because there's no reason to elect somebody who can't get it done. And if all you do is spend time, I give speeches, I give interviews, I have to do that, and I'll have to get on, I don't like social media, but I got to do videos now on social media and all that stuff. You got to do it. But if that's all you do, and you don't actually deliver results during your time in office, why would we put you in the governor's mansion? And so you want somebody who's delivered results, and at the end of all that, who do you trust the most for whatever comes our way? Because I got to tell you, whether it's AI or all the things that are coming down the pike and all the challenges we're going to have, I think that the challenges for the next 8 years are just as great as what we've had these last 8. But together, we can get this done. I want to thank you because I know many people in this room were there. I'll never forget 2018. And I was thinking of this big agenda we were going to have. I was going to put as many conservative wins on the board as I could in my 2 60-day sessions. If I got there as speaker, I knew then I was going to in line to be speaker. And we're sitting there, Bobby, if you remember, with the incoming speaker, and we didn't know whether it was going to be Governor Ron, as the election results came in, whether it was going to be Governor Ron DeSantis or Governor Andrew Gillum. So thank you for making sure that we got that 30,000 votes, and Putnam County made it happen. So thank you guys. God bless you. I'd love to take some questions from you, but that's my pitch. That's what we did, and we're ready to get to work on day one as governor. Please let me know what questions you might have. Yes, sir.
Seems like most of the construction trades are in a downward curve right now, slight recession potentially, right? And so the problem we're having in the construction world is that while ICE is doing what they're doing, and that's fine, no problem, I have a problem with that, but I see no repercussions for the business owners that are employing these illegal aliens and making all the money. And so people like me who do it right and don't do business that way, they're undercutting our prices, and in a down economy is really starting to hurt. So, what are your thoughts on that?
So let me ask you, you're over 25 employees, I'm going to guess, and you're talking about companies that are under that, right?
I'm slightly under 22.
Okay. So you don't have an E-Verify obligation, but you're saying you're doing it right and some others are not doing it right. Yeah. And that's the problem. And look, I'm supportive of, and I'm going to be rolling out here soon some details on affordability. One of the things is we're not going to allow, you see, I was talking, where's Brett? Where's my aide, Brett? He's gone somewhere. There he is, back there. He told me the story of his buddy who's an engineer. He's got 17 patents, brilliant guy. He's at work for a company. We won't tell you which company it was, but he trains these two guys that are from overseas, and then they fire him. And they continue to hire him, those two guys, for less money. And so these H-1B visas need to be, we need to put a hold on that. As governor, I'm not going to hire anybody at the state level. I want to make sure procurement would be an answer. So if it's a state contract, you have to, make sure you're not hiring, and that's on the legal side. But on the illegal side, we just need more enforcement, I think. And part of the problem of having, I don't know how many it is, 15, 20, 30 million people that have come in this country illegally, is we gotta get them out, because they are competing for jobs, and people are going to take. And then there's a lot of crime that goes with that too, because they know they're on the bubble and people take advantage of them, and that's not right either. And they're committing crimes, and they don't want to report the crimes, or they're told that they're going to have to participate in crimes, or they're going to be sold out and all this kind of stuff. So we've got to get the illegals out. We have to have a system that works, that is, and we don't right now. It's a broken system. Thankfully, the president, I think, has done a fantastic job at the border. It's just going to take a lot of time to get millions of people who are all over the place. If you think about America's most wanted, 10 most wanted, and we can't find those guys, I mean, they're good because they're most wanted, I guess, but how do you find 20 million people in a free country like that? It's going to take years and years, but we're getting after it. Appreciate the sheriff's role. I'm always going to stand shoulder to shoulder with our sheriffs and make sure that when we're doing that in full, discussion with them, so that we roll something out, we're all on board on the same page to make sure it's effective. And if they need additional resources to make that happen, we provide those resources at the state level. Yeah. Yes, sir.
You might want to take a look at South Carolina. More than 10 years ago, probably 15, they created their own force, the state police, to do what was being questioned, because their state police goes and knocks on employers' doors and makes sure that those employers are in compliance. And they have the arrest authority, and in the years I was living there, it made a difference with those employers, because exactly as the sheriff had said, illegal aliens survive most when they can live in plain sight and not be asked any questions. And if the employers that are fudging know that there's going to be more than ICE coming and knocking on the door, it made a huge difference. And that's all state operated. You didn't have to beg uncle.
Yeah, Florida's usually leading the way on just about everything, but there's some states, and that may be an example where we want to grab a model that works and employ that here as well. And that would take some off of you guys, because and I know you're not necessarily knocking on doors, but because you've got other stuff to do, like chase these bad guys around and sexual predators. But that could be an option to stand that up at the state level, or have some supplement, funding wise, to allow you guys to have somebody that just does that. There you go. There you go. And with FDLE, one of the things we did, because kids matter a lot to me, and I really think one of the things we did is we protected children and defended childhood, is a lot of extra money for human trafficking. I was proud to see that. I don't know if you remember, they got 60 kids they rescued down in the Tampa area, and the FDLE commissioner said that was a lot of the funding that we did while I was speaker and Bobby was there, and so that matters a lot. I'm telling you, human traffickers are not going to want me as governor, because I'm going to go get them. So, yes, sir.
What are your thoughts on the real estate taxes? I know that's going to be discussed.
Yeah. Yeah, so here's the issue, and this is in multiple buckets. Take property taxes, healthcare, and insurance. All three of those are major costs in all of our lives. All of them are going up faster than our incomes. Not just faster than inflation, but faster than our incomes can keep up. And so on the property tax issue, I do believe something must be done. We had one of the commissioners and I had chatted earlier about, some of the broader proposals. I think we can put that on the ballot for voters to decide, but what they're going to realize is if you get rid of all homestead property taxes, you do have to have some replacement for police officers, first responders, your schools, your infrastructure, your core government functions. Now, probably not in Putnam, but you've seen some of these DOJ efforts in other like big cities that are wasting money and spending money that most of us in this room, being Republicans, would say is not something government needs to be or should be doing. And so they certainly need to carve that out. And I would continue that DOJ process, not just at the local level, but also the state level. I DOJ the state of Florida too. But there does have to be some relief. And so if you look at a graph, where income, it's going like this, that it's separating where property taxes are growing more rapidly than incomes. And we saw this before in 2007. And so what I want to see is the legislature and the governor. I haven't heard the governor come out with a proposal yet. The legislature's thrown out some stuff. All that stuff has to go. And if you wanted to repeal homestead property taxes, which you could do, you need to replace it with some other taxes to make everybody whole. But you could do it, and we may want to do it. But that's on the ballot. 60% vote next November, and you're not going to see the benefit of that until November of 27, I think, on the property. I don't know if we have the property tax appraiser here or the tax collector, but I think it wouldn't get on your property tax bill until 2027 because we're not passing it until end of next year, a year from now. And so to me, that's too late. Every day I'm on the campaign trail. I can tell you, I don't know about anybody in this room, but a lady today says, I'm moving to Idaho. Another lady said, if my insurance goes up again, I'm leaving the state. I'm going to have to move to Georgia. I can't afford my home anymore. People are losing their homes. And so we have to give relief. If we're not going to repeal homestead property tax, I'd like to see some rollback to get back to where people's incomes are. We got to look at what that math looks like. And if you're a conservative county who's been doing the right thing, that rollback would be smaller. Where you've spent every dollar and you've taken every dollar, that rollback would be more significant. So good news, bad news. If you got a good, the county's been kind of holding the line and doing more with less, you're not going to get as much benefit as a place like Broward County, where I used to live, where they're spending everything and then some. But that's property taxes. And I think there's something, and so something can be done in the legislative session that doesn't have to trigger. They did this in 2007 with a mandatory rollback of a certain percentage, maybe 1%, 3%, 10%, depending on counties. But I want to look back and not punish a conservative county, which has been well run, versus a poorly run county, because that's not fair to say, okay, here's your new baseline. And then I want to see caps where we have caps. We put caps on ourselves. So if we increase a tax or fee or create a new tax or fee, it's a 2/3 vote. And if it's important enough, you'll do it. And then give the voters a chance to say yes or no at the next election. And I was down in Seminole talking to their county commission, and the guy said, no problem. Our voters passed it by 70% because they made the case. This is what we need it for kids, for schools, or we need it for more police cops on the street. If you explain it to people and they feel like the money's, being spent right, then they'll listen to you and they'll give you that. So, but I want to see caps so we don't see this again where you have this separation where you keep revenues with income. And I know that's a long-winded answer, but I've thought a lot about this. I don't have all the answers yet, but that's where I'd like to go after we see what happens. I can't put anything on the ballot, but we see what goes on the ballot in 26. We'd be talking about 2028 for some constitutional things, but I want some legislative relief right now, something. It may not be much, but and at least don't let the taxes keep floating up if they're already well above that income range. You know what I mean? That's not good. People really are suffering on that. Yes. And I do want to thank all the commissioners for being here. That's a great turnout. I know you guys are working very hard, and what you do is important. I don't think people really realize in some of these things I go to that there's really important stuff behind those property taxes, and so you got to figure out how you make that work if we want to get rid of it. And we can, but it's going to be difficult with a lot of replacement. Okay, thank you guys very much. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much, sir. So let me tell you all, David Enzor, for those of you who don't know, is one of our founding members of the Republican Club. I think we've been now, this is our 11th or 12th, going into our 12th year, I think, as a club. And Mr. Renner, you are the first candidate for governor to ever visit us. So thank you so very much for being here. We know we're a small community. We know we're, we don't have the voters here that they have in other counties, but we're mighty and we come out strong. So, so thank you so much. All right, we have a few more minutes and we'll be wrapped up here. So if you'll indulge me for a moment, we do have to have an election of officers quickly. Those of you who are members were given a little chit of paper. That's your slate of officers. Yes, does it look familiar? It's the same slate as you have currently. And so what we're going to do is quickly go through the motions as defined in our bylaws. So we're going to go through and call out each position. And if there's not another nomination, then that person will retain their seat by acclamation. So we're going to start with treasurer. The nomination that we have is for Barb Altman. Is there any other nominations from the floor? Seeing no other nominations, Barb, you are our treasurer again this coming year. Our next position is for secretary. Savannah Williams is our current secretary. Do I have any nominations from the floor? Hearing no nominations, Savannah, congratulations. You are secretary once again. Going to vice president, we have Buddy Gator. Do we have any nominations from the floor? Hearing none, Buddy, congratulations. You are with us again next year. And the final position is for president, for Rhonda Drackett Williams. Do I have any nominations from the floor? Yes, Mr. Williams. John, are you accepting the nomination? No. Do I hear any other nominations from the floor? Hearing none, thank you very much. I'm honored to be your president again for 2026. A couple other announcements. Thank you those who paid your dues. Dues are due by January the 1st. $25 for the year. Well worth it when you have programming like this tonight. So please pay your dues. The other is Duval County is looking for volunteers who can do texting. They'll give you a script and a list for texting. If you're interested, they're a great group. Let me tell you what they're doing. They have been working hard in Duval County. They are 4,900 voters from flipping Putnam County to red. Duval County to red. So Duval County, as we know, has been Democratic for a long time. They will flip, and they believe soon, but they'd like some help in getting the word out. So if you're interested in doing that, let me know, and I'll put you in touch with Linda LaSalle, who is their coordinator. Larry, do we have any REC updates? Okay. We have the Christmas parade. Les, you want to give a quick update on the Christmas parade?
I can. As I talked about last meeting.
Why don't you come up here so everybody can hear you? I know. While he's walking up here, our next REC meeting is November 24th at Beck's headquarters. Our next board meeting for the club is December the 5th at Beck's headquarters. Remember, no meeting next month because we're doing Christmas. And our January speaker is our annual report from our Deputy County Administrator, Julianne Young.
Real quick, yes, we do have a float for the Christmas parade. It's going to be really simple. I'm not going to put a bunch of politics into this because the parade's about the kids and Christmas and whatnot. But I would invite everybody, if you don't have anything going on November 23rd, my house in East Palatka, we're going to build the float. Now I've already started on it with some of my guys and my crews and stuff like that. But we may need some women touches to maybe spruce things up a little bit. We will have an entertainer on the float singing Christmas carols, dancing and singing and carrying on and stuff like that. So November 23rd at 2 o'clock, my house, I'm going to serve a venison chili and stuff like that. So we're going to send an email out tomorrow. If you would like to join us, would you please just let me know who's coming? That way I make sure I have enough chili and stuff like that.
Okay. And then when's the Christmas parade?
The Christmas parade, that is the day after Thanksgiving, so that Friday evening. Okay. Josh?
Yes, quick question. Will you be singing and dancing, or is that?
Well, I think Tim was going to nominate you for that since he's nominating everybody. You're up, buddy. Oh, okay, so my bad. We are going to hand out candy canes during the parade, right? We have about $650 to buy 700 candy canes. And if anybody has some tennis shoes, they want to walk alongside the float, we're going to ask that you wear your Freedom shirts and hand out every child along the parade route a candy cane, the big ones. And so we're going to buy it. If you could just tote along with us, we'd appreciate it. Yep. Thank you.
All right. We have Phil Leary. You have some important information to share with the group. You want to come up to the microphone? Just do it right there.
Invite everybody to the school board meeting on Tuesday. Any of y'all that would like to do all our very disappointed and atrocious audit from the state auditor general, and we're interested in new government as far as the school board is concerned. Come Tuesday to express your
All right, thank you, Phil. If anyone's interested, the school board meeting is Tuesday at 3:30, okay, at the school board building. So if anyone is interested in some more information, if you'll see Phil after the meeting, I would appreciate it. That's all we have for this evening. Thank you so very much for being here. We're going to close the meeting down so we can have our 50-50 raffle. Enjoy your time tonight, and thank you for coming. Please be sure to sign a petition on your way out if you haven't done so. Barb has a special request. Whoever has receipt, a lot of people were doing transactions tonight. If you have receipt number 360033, please see Barb. She needs to see you.